It was a cold, gray morning. The sky looked as if it was morning too. Mr. Ahmed had died 2 days ago. He was a rich man, owner of factories, buildings, and a house so big it looked like a palace. Now his family, brothers, sisters, nieces, and nephews had come for the reading of his will. Everyone sat in the big drawing room. The curtains were thick. The silence was heavy. A lawyer in a black coat stood near the fireplace, holding a brown file. But all eyes were not on him. They were on Zoya. She sat quietly in a corner, wearing a simple blue dress. Her hands were folded in her lap. Her shoes were old. Her scarf was plain. She looked nothing like the others. A woman whispered loudly, "Why is she even here?" "She's just a maid's daughter," said another. "Probably came to see if she gets some coins." Zoya heard everything. But she didn't speak. She never did. She had lived in this house since she was 5. Her mother was a housemaid who worked day and night. When her mother passed away, Mr. Ahmed let Zoya stay. He paid for her school. He gave her food and a room. But she was never treated like family. The other relatives never accepted her. To them, she was just a burden, a stranger in their rich world. The lawyer cleared his throat. "We will begin now." The room quieted down. Mr. Ahmed's family leaned forward. Some already looked excited. Everyone wanted a part of his wealth. The lawyer opened the file slowly, but before he could read anything, he stopped, looked around the room, and said, "Before we start the will, there is a sealed letter left by Mr. Ahmed. He said this letter must be read out loud, and it is only for Zoya." The air changed. "What?" someone said angrily. "Why for her?" "This is nonsense," but the lawyer ignored them. He opened the letter with care and began to read. "Dear Zoya, if you are hearing this, it means I am gone. I never told you the truth, because I didn't know how. But now I must. You were never just a maid's daughter to me. You were more than that. You are brave, kind, and smart. You always reminded me of someone very special. There is something I left for you, something the others won't expect. But you deserve it more than anyone else in this room. Don't be afraid. The truth will speak for itself. With love, Mr. Ahmed." The lawyer folded the letter slowly. Zoya sat still. The entire room had gone silent. Everyone was staring at her. One man stood up. "This is some emotional drama. She's trying to get sympathy." "Exactly," said a woman. "She must have made him write that. She's clever." Zoya looked down at her hands. Her heart was beating fast. She didn't understand. What truth? What was Mr. Ahmed talking about? The lawyer spoke again. "We will now continue with the actual will. But I request you all, please listen patiently." Nobody was patient now. Whispers, frowns, angry faces. Zoya sat alone in the middle of the storm. A few minutes passed. The lawyer read names. One by one, family members received shares of property, jewelry, and business. Then he paused again. "There is a separate file," he said slowly, pulling out another envelope. "This one is confidential. It will be opened at the end." He looked at Zoya, and only at Zoya. Something was hidden, something big. The others didn't know it yet. But this was not just the story of a rich man's will. This was the beginning of a truth that would shake every person in that room. And Zoya, she was no longer just a quiet girl in the corner. She was the center of a secret about to explode. Zoya couldn't sleep that night. The lawyer's words, Mr. Ahmed's letter, and the angry faces of the relatives kept coming back to her mind. "You were never just a maid's daughter to me. You reminded me of someone very special. I left something for you." What did he mean? What had he hidden? She looked around her small room, the same room she had lived in since she was a child. The walls were plain, the bed was hard, but It was her only home. Zoya closed her eyes, and her memories opened. Years ago. She was 5 years old when her mother brought her to the house. Zoya remembered holding her mother's hand tightly, walking through the grand front gate. The house looked huge, like a building in a movie. Marble floors, shining lights, expensive furniture. Her mother, Radzia, had been hired as a maid. They were given a small servant quarter at the back of the house. From the very first day, Zoya knew she didn't belong to this world. The other servants were kind, but the rich people, they barely looked at her. When they did, it was only with pity or anger. But there was one person who always noticed her. Mr. Ahmed. He was an old man, quiet and serious, but he had soft eyes. He would sometimes sit alone in the library, reading books or staring out the window. One day, little Zoya was sitting outside, crying. Her mother had gone out, and one of the relatives had shouted at her for touching the curtains. Mr. Ahmed saw her. He came close and sat beside her. "Why are you crying?" he asked gently. She wiped her tears. "Auntie said I'm dirty, that I shouldn't be near the drawing room." Mr. Ahmed looked at her small face, and something in his heart broke. "You are not dirty," he said quietly. "You are light. Don't let their shadows scare you." From that day, he began watching her closely. A quiet Bon Zoya never disturbed anyone. She cleaned, helped her mother, and studied alone in her room. When Mr. Ahmed found out she liked books, he gave her some storybooks from his library. Later, he started buying her new ones. When her mother fell sick and passed away, Zoya was just 10. She had no one. Mr. Ahmed asked her to stay. People didn't understand why. They whispered behind his back, "She's not even related to him." Why? Is he wasting money on her school? But Mr. Ahmed didn't care. He hired a tutor for her, bought her new clothes. On her birthday, he gifted her a dictionary with her name written inside, Zoya Ahmed. She didn't notice the last name at the time. She was too young. But now it was starting to make sense. The family's hatred Mr. Ahmed's relatives hated. "Zoya's presence in the house. She's lucky we let her stay," one auntie would say. "She's nothing but a maid's child. They never spoke kindly to her, never invited her to family dinners, never included her in pictures." But Mr. Ahmed would often talk to her during tea. He asked her about school, about her dreams, about what books she was reading. "I want to become a teacher," she once said. He smiled. "You'll be much more than that." A memory returns. Back in the present, Zoya stood in the dark library. Everything was untouched. She ran her fingers across the old wooden table. The same table where Mr. Ahmed used to sit. The smell of books still lingered. She remembered something, an old book he once gave her. A green diary. She looked through the shelf, and then she found it. It was dusty, but her name was still written on the inside. To Zoya, for the future you deserve. She sat on the floor, opened the diary, and turned the pages. Poems, notes, quotes, all written in Mr. Ahmed's handwriting. Then, between 2 pages, she found a photo. It was a photo of a woman. Her face looked familiar. Zoya's heart skipped a beat. It was her mother, younger, smiling, standing next to Mr. Ahmed. She turned the photo over. On the back, in faded ink, were the words, "Razzia, the only woman who saved my life." Zoya's hands shook. What did that mean? Saved his life? A new question. That night, Zoya sat by the window and looked up at the sky. The stars were silent. So was her heart. She thought she knew her story. She thought she was just a servant's daughter who got lucky, but now she realized there was a whole part of her past she had never seen. Mr. Ahmed's words were not random. He had loved her mother. He had protected her. And maybe, just maybe, He had left behind more than a memory. The house was quiet the next morning. Too quiet. Zoya walked through the long corridors of the mansion, her footsteps echoing against the marble floors. The other family members had gone back to their rooms, most of them too angry or too curious to speak with her. Only the lawyer's words stayed in her ears. "There is another file. It will be opened at the end." What was in that file? Why did Mr. Ahmed write such a letter for her? Zoya couldn't wait for answers anymore. She needed to understand. And there was only one place where the truth might still be alive. The library. Back to the beginning. The library was the heart of the mansion. A large room with tall bookshelves, old wooden furniture, and a warm, mysterious smell of time, of paper, of secrets. Zoya had spent many quiet hours here as a child, reading storybooks Mr. Ahmed gave her, but today she was not looking for a story. She was looking for the truth. She sat down at the old desk where Mr. Ahmed always sat. She gently opened the drawers one by one. Most were empty, filled only with pens, paper, and dust, but then in the bottom drawer she found something. It was old, locked, and wrapped in a velvet cloth. She lifted it carefully. There was a golden keyhole on the front, and beside it, a tag that read, "For Zoya, when the time is right." Her hands trembled. She didn't have the key, a clue in the light. She placed the box on the desk, staring at it. Suddenly she remembered something. Once, many years ago, Mr. Ahmed had shown her a strange book in the library. It wasn't a normal book. It had a secret compartment. Could that book hold the key? She jumped up and walked to the back shelf. Her fingers moved quickly, across the spine, searching. There it was, Tales of Time, a large, dusty book with golden edges. She pulled it out. It felt heavier than usual. She opened it. Inside, instead of pages, there was a small wooden compartment, and inside that, a key. Unlocking the box, Zoya rushed back to the desk. She slowly inserted the key into the lock. Click. The lid opened with a quiet creak. Inside the box was another envelope, some old documents, and something that made Zoya freeze, a gold locket. She picked it up. Morning came. But the air in the mansion was anything but calm. The sun rose slowly, yet tension had already filled every corner of the house. The news had spread like fire. Mr. Ahmed's second file was going to be opened today. Zoya sat alone at the breakfast table. No one else had joined her. They were all too busy, whispering behind closed doors, making phone calls and building stories in their heads. She could hear them. She must be lying. There's no way he would leave something big for her. I think she's playing an emotional game. She probably forged the letter. Zoya didn't answer any of it. She didn't need to, because deep inside, she held the truth. And she had the locket, the letters, and Mr. Ahmed's words to prove it. A dangerous plan. In the guest room upstairs, Saima, Mr. Ahmed's niece, was pacing the floor. Her husband, Bilal, sat on the edge of the bed, reading the original. "Will again. This girl is going to ruin everything," Saima snapped. Bilal nodded. If she is really adopted, and he signed documents, she might be the legal heir. "But how is that even possible?" she said. "We're blood relatives. We were with him all his life." "He didn't like any of us," Bilal replied, dryly. "You know that." Saima's eyes burned with anger. "Then we have to stop this." Fake smiles. By noon, all the relatives were gathered in the drawing room again. This time, the mood was different. The air smelled of fake kindness and forced politeness. "Zoya Beta, come sit here," said one aunt, who never even looked at her before. "You must be tired," said another. "Let me get you some juice." Zoya quietly sat down. She knew what this was. They were trying to pull her close, because they were scared. She looked around. All these people had once laughed at her. They mocked her clothes, her shoes, her background. And now they were smiling, but not with their hearts, only with their teeth. The lawyer returns at exactly 1 p.m. The lawyer returned, carrying a new file. The room fell silent. Everyone sat up straight. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "as per Mr. Ahmed's final request, I am now going to open and read this sealed file. Please stay calm." These were his personal instructions. He opened the file. Everyone leaned forward. Zoya sat still. The shocking truth. The lawyer began reading. "This document confirms that Mr. Ahmed legally adopted Miss Zoya in 2014, all legal. Procedures were followed. The paperwork was signed and verified by the court." Gasps filled the room. Furthermore, Mr. Ahmed transferred ownership of the mansion and 60% of his assets to Miss Zoya, stating she is the rightful heir. A sound like a bomb went off in the room. People began shouting, "What? This is a lie! She's a servant's daughter! She manipulated him in his old age!" But the lawyer raised his hand. "There is more." He continued reading. In a personal letter, Mr. Ahmed wrote, "This family was never with me. They only visited for my money. They never asked me how I was. Zoya stayed by my side, not for money, not for greed, but out of love. She is my daughter by choice. And everything I own should go to the one who truly cared for me." Anger turns ugly. The room exploded. One man stood up and pointed at Zoya. "You tricked him! You stole our family's wealth!" An older woman screamed, "You poisoned his mind!" Another shouted, "We'll take this to court." Zoya stood up slowly. Her voice was soft but clear. "I didn't ask for anything. I never even thought about his money. But he gave it to me, because he knew what you all really cared about." She looked at each face, one by one. "You saw me as a maid's daughter, but he saw me as his own." The threat. That evening, Zoya was sitting quietly in her room when she heard a knock on her door. It was Saima and Bilal. Their faces were smiling, but their eyes were sharp. "Zoya," Saima said sweetly, "we're family, aren't we?" Zoya didn't answer. "We were thinking," Bilal continued. "You got such a big gift from Uncle. Maybe you can share a small part with us? Just a little, for peace in the family." Zoya looked at them calmly. "Is that why you came?" Saima's smile faded. "Be careful, Zoya. These things can get complicated. It wasn't just a request anymore. It was a threat." Zoya's resolve. That night, Zoya locked her room and sat by the window. The stars looked peaceful, but her heart was not. She had the house, the documents, the name. But now she had enemies too. People who would do anything to take what was hers. But she was no longer the quiet girl in the corner. She was Zoya Ahmed, and she had the strength of two parents behind her, a mother who worked with dignity and a father who left her everything with love. Zoya never imagined that standing for the truth would bring war, but the moment Mr. Ahmed's second will was read, the family turned into enemies. Greedy, angry, desperate. They didn't just want justice. They wanted revenge, and they were ready to fight her in court, summoned to court 3 days later. A legal notice arrived at the mansion. Zoya stood at the front door, holding the envelope in her hand. The paper inside had bold letters. "Notice of property dispute, filed by Mrs. Saima and Mr. Bilal." She read it again and again. Her heart beat faster with every line. They were claiming that Mr. Ahmed was not in his senses when he made the will. They were saying that Zoya influenced him, pressured him, even manipulated him. A lie. All of it. But a lie repeated loudly can still cause damage. Zoya quietly walked back inside. She was not just a girl in grief anymore. She was now a woman in battle. The lawyer's warning. That evening, Zoya sat with Mr. Farid, the lawyer who had read the will. He looked serious. "This will be a difficult case," he said. "They have money, they have connections, and they're angry." Zoya nodded. "But the truth is with us, right?" He smiled. "Yes, but sometimes truth is not enough. We will need proof, witnesses, and courage." "I have all three," Zoya replied firmly. Mr. Farid looked at her with quiet respect. He had seen rich people collapse under pressure. But this girl? She stood taller every time someone tried to break her. Rumors began. As the court date got closer, the family started playing dirty. Whispers spread in the neighborhood. She was just a servant's child. And now she owns a mansion? Maybe she tricked him. Old people are easy to fool. I heard she used fake documents. Zoya heard the rumors. Every time she stepped out of the gate, eyes followed her, some with pity, some with judgment, but Zoya walked with her head high. She remembered what her mother used to say, "If your heart is clean, don't be afraid of mud." The first day. In court. The courtroom was packed. Family members sat on one side, cold faces, angry eyes. Zoya sat quietly on the other side, next to Mr. Farid. The judge entered. The hearing began. Saima's lawyer stood up first. He spoke for 20 minutes straight. Mr. Ahmed was old and weak. His mind was not stable. This girl took advantage of him. She is not even his blood. Zoya sat silently. Every word felt like a cut. But she didn't bleed. Because lies are loud, but truth is stronger. Zoya's turn. Now it was Mr. Farid's turn. He stood calmly and opened a file. "Your Honor," he began, "this girl didn't beg for money. She didn't demand property. She lived here for over 15 years without asking for a single thing." He placed a file on the judge's table. "These are adoption papers, signed, dated, verified." He placed another document. "This is a psychological report from Mr. Ahmed's doctor, dated just a week before he died. It confirms that his mind was healthy, sharp, and stable." And finally, he held up the gold locket. "This belonged to Mr. Ahmed. It carries his photo, and the photo of Zoya's mother, the woman he loved, the woman he trusted." The courtroom fell silent. Family meltdown. After the hearing, Saima stormed out of the courtroom. "This is not over," she shouted. "We'll find something. She can't just take everything." Bilal pulled her aside. "We need a new plan, something stronger." "What do you mean?" He whispered something in her ear. Her eyes widened. A slow smile spread across her lips. The fake witness. Next week, the family brought a new witness to court, a man named Irfan. He claimed he used to work at the house. He said, "Mr. Ahmed once told me Zoya was only a charity case." He felt sorry for her. He never meant to give her anything. Zoya looked at the man carefully. She had never seen him in her life. She whispered to Mr. Farid, "He's lying." The lawyer nodded. "We'll prove it." They asked for time to investigate. Truth strikes back. Over the next few days, Zoya and Mr. Farid worked non-stop. They found old staff members, 2 loyal gardeners and a cook, who had worked in the mansion for years. All 3 agreed to come forward. When the next hearing arrived, they told the judge, "We saw how Mr. Ahmed treated Zoya, like a daughter, not like a servant's child. He gave her books, clothes, birthday gifts. He even called her Beta in front of us." The court listened carefully. The fake witness panicked. He was caught lying. He had never worked there. The family's case started falling apart. A message from the past. That evening, Zoya returned to the library once again. She opened the green diary Mr. Ahmed gave her. In the last few pages, she found something she had missed before. A simple line, written in his handwriting. "Don't fear storms, Zoya. They come to clear your path. She closed the diary. She wasn't afraid anymore. The judge's words, after weeks of hearings, the final day arrived. The judge looked at both sides and then said, "This case was not just about property. It was about love, truth, and loyalty. Zoya Ahmed, adopted by Mr. Ahmed legally, is the rightful heir. The court finds the will valid. The case is closed." Zoya closed her eyes. Her heart felt light. She had not just won the case, she had protected a promise. The courtroom was now behind her. But the emotions, they were still heavy in Zoya's heart. Yes, she had won the case. Yes, the mansion was hers. But something inside still felt empty. Because this fight wasn't just about money, it was about love. And the person who had given her that love was now gone. The quiet. After the storm, Zoya stood by the window of her room. The garden below looked peaceful again. No more footsteps of angry relatives, no more shouting in the halls, just silence. But not the comforting kind. It was the silence that comes when you miss someone deeply. She walked over to Mr. Ahmed's study. The door was slightly open. She hadn't entered since the day of the funeral. Now, slowly, she stepped inside. Memories in dust. The study smelled of old books, wooden shelves, and the faint scent of Mr. Ahmed's perfume. His chair was still there, his glasses were still resting on the table, and the photo frame, with the picture of Zoya's mother, was still in its place. Zoya touched it gently. Tears filled her eyes. "You kept her close all these years." "And now you've left me too," she whispered. But then, her eyes noticed something strange, a drawer, slightly open, as if it was left like that on purpose. Zoya opened it. Inside was a small brown envelope. Her name was written on the front in Mr. Ahmed's handwriting. Zoya, to be opened after the storm. Her hands trembled. She slowly opened the envelope. Inside was a letter. The goodbye letter. Zoya sat down on the chair and unfolded the paper. The words were familiar. They were his words, calm, wise, and full of love. "My dearest Zoya, if you are reading this, it means I am no longer with you. But don't cry. I have already lived 2 lives, one as Ahmed the businessman, the other as Zoya's Abu. I know the storm must have come. People would have attacked you, doubted you, tried to take what I gave you. That's why I waited to give you this letter. Because this letter is not for defense. It's for healing." Zoya wiped a tear and kept reading. "Zoya, when I first saw you at the hospital, you were a baby in your mother's arms. Your mother had nothing, but her eyes had strength. She refused charity but accepted work. She started cleaning the house the very next day. Over time, I watched you grow. You had your mother's courage, her honesty, her fire. When she died, I saw you sitting alone, reading a broken book, whispering her name. That day I promised myself, I will protect this girl for the rest of my life." Zoya's tears were flowing now, but her eyes did not blink. She needed every word. "I know people around us never accepted you. They called you names, treated you like a maid's daughter. But I want you to remember one thing forever. Blood does not make family. Love does. You were never like a daughter to me. You were my daughter. And everything I gave you, it was not a gift. It was your right." Zoya placed a hand on her chest. His words felt like a hug from heaven, a final task. The letter wasn't over yet. There was one last paragraph. "Now, I want you to do something for me. Take the keys in this envelope. Go to the small storeroom near the garden. Inside, you'll find something I left for you, something only a daughter can understand. With all my love." Abu Zoya opened the envelope again. This time, she found a tiny silver key. Without wasting a moment, She ran down the stairs. The storeroom. The garden was still. Birds chirped softly as Zoya walked to the side of the mansion. There, behind the jasmine plants, was a small wooden door. She had never paid attention to it before. With trembling hands, she inserted the key. The lock clicked. The door opened. Inside was a small room filled with covered boxes, and in the center a wooden chest. She opened the chest. Her breath caught. What he left behind, inside were dozens of photo albums, old, faded, beautiful. Photos of Zoya as a child, playing in the backyard, painting with her mother, celebrating her birthday with Mr. Ahmed. There were letters, too. Letters written by Mr. Ahmed to Zoya, that he had never given her. Today, Zoya called me Abu for the first time. Zoya failed a test but smiled anyway. Her courage amazes me. I'm scared of dying, not because of death, but because I'll leave her alone. Zoya cried as she read each one. He had loved her from the beginning, but he had saved these memories for the day she'd need them the most. And now, she did. More than inheritance. That night, Zoya sat on the floor of the storeroom, photo albums around. Her letters in her lap. Heart full, she finally understood. This mansion, this money, these were just things. The real gift he gave her was belonging. He didn't just adopt her legally, he accepted her completely. And now, even in death, he was standing. Beside her, her promise. Zoya looked up at the night sky. The stars seemed brighter. She made a silent promise. Abu, I will not waste what you gave me. I will turn this house into a home again. Not just for me, but for others who feel alone in this world. Her voice was soft, but strong. And in that moment, the mansion didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt alive, full of memories, full of love, full of a father's final message and a daughter's beginning. It had been 1 month since the courtroom battle ended. The mansion was peaceful now. But for Zoya, peace didn't mean silence. It meant purpose. She had spent her entire life feeling like a guest in someone else's home. Now, she felt like the guardian of something greater. Not just bricks and walls, but of memories, dreams, and a man's final wish. The locked room one morning, while walking through the hallway, Zoya passed by a door she had never opened before. It was always locked. Mr. Ahmed used to say, "That room is not ready yet." But now, with all the keys in her hand, Zoya decided it was time. She unlocked the door. Inside was a small, simple room. White walls, a table, 2 chairs, and on the wall, a quote written in bold letters, "No child should feel unwanted." Zoya walked in slowly. There were files stacked neatly in one corner. Each one was labeled Adoption Request, Child Welfare Project, Education for Orphans. She sat down and began reading. Her eyes widened. Mr. Ahmed had been planning something big. He wasn't just giving her a home. He was building a future for many children like her. The hidden dream. Zoya found a folder with her name on it. Inside there were notes, written in Mr. Ahmed's own handwriting. Zoya will lead this project someday. She has the heart. She has the strength. If anything happens to me, this dream must not die with me. Zoya closed the folder gently. Her hands were shaking. Her heart was full. Mr. Ahmed didn't just leave her his wealth. He left her a mission, a purpose, a legacy, the new beginning. 2 weeks later, the mansion gates opened again, but this time not for lawyers or relatives, for children. 10 young boys and girls entered the mansion for the first time. Some were shy, some scared, some just looked confused. Zoya welcomed them with a smile. The storm had passed. But Zoya was not the same girl anymore. She had walked through fire and come out stronger. The mansion was now hers. But it wasn't just a place made of bricks and paint. It was a house of memories, of pain, love, loss. And now, purpose. New purpose. One morning, Zoya stood in the center of the huge hall. Her voice echoed softly. This house needs new life. Mr. Ahmed had once filled it with laughter. But now every room felt like a museum. She didn't want silence anymore. She wanted this house to become a place where hearts could heal, just like hers had. That very day, she picked up her phone and made a call to a local orphanage. Welcoming the forgotten. 2 weeks later, 7 children arrived at the mansion, boys and girls between the ages of 5 and 12. They stepped in with wide eyes, holding small bags and big fears. They had never seen a house so big. They had never seen kindness last longer than a meal. Zoya welcomed each one personally, with a smile, with warmth, with the same love that Mr. Ahmed once gave her. The house becomes a home. Every room in the mansion got a new name. Not numbers, names that meant something. Hope Room, Sunlight Room, Dreams Room. Zoya decorated each room with bright colors, soft lights, and shelves full of books. She added swings in the garden, a painting wall in the hallway, a music corner near the library. The house started breathing again, and laughter returned, not in echoes, but in real time. Facing the world, some people still talked behind her back. She's just doing this for attention. She's trying to act like a rich saint now. But Zoya never replied with words. She replied with actions. She took 3 children to a school and personally got them admitted. She arranged for free tutoring. Inside the mansion, she created a small scholarship fund under Mr. Ahmed's name for orphans and poor children. Bit by bit, she began turning kindness into a legacy. Meeting her mother's friend one evening, a woman in her 50s came to visit. She held an old photo in her hand. "I knew your mother," she said softly. "We cleaned houses together." Zoya's heart skipped a beat. The woman sat down and told her stories she had never heard before. How her mother used to sing while mopping floors. How she once gave her lunch to a hungry child instead of eating herself. How she used to whisper, "My Zoya will never be small. My Zoya will fly." Tears ran down Zoya's face. "My mother believed in me, even before I could understand myself." The wall of names. That night, Zoya went to the library. She took a large canvas and began writing. Not poems, not rules, but names. Her mother's name, Mr. Ahmed's name. Every child who came to stay in the mansion. Every staff member who stood by her. And yes, even the names of those who tried to break her. Because every person in her story had taught her something. She called it the wall of names, a wall of truth, a wall of memory, a wall of power. Zoya's interview. Soon, a journalist came to know about the girl who inherited a mansion and turned it into a home for orphans. They requested an interview.